Today, people think that immigrants, whatever it is, immigrant professionals, whatever, they just think that we're a drain on the economy. They don't understand that the economy is also a drain, a big drain on us. Why do we get here and suddenly our experience is not good enough? What does Canadian experience actually mean? On one hand, you can go logical. Oh, it just means you've not worked locally. You don't have, you've not worked in a Canadian environment. Okay, fair enough. But the question remains, the job that I'm doing, the experience that I had, for me, as an example, or say a developer, you code in .NET or your experience in Python or whatever it is, it's the same.
Language,
in Slovakia, in the UK, in Lagos, even in my village, you have access to the internet, it's the same.
Sure.
You have a lot of immigrant professionals coming here, people with wonderful skill sets, experience and all that. And then they end up in blue-collar jobs. You turn people with all these big potentials into this. And yet, Canada keeps advertising. I'm not against immigration. Immigration brought me here. I honestly feel that immigration in its current form, it's not working. And it needs to change. I'm of the personal bias that we don't need as many immigrant professionals as we currently invite into this country today. I don't think we do need them. Because there is a lot of build-up of these professionals within Canada who are not at their best. Their potential is not being maximized. Many of them are not even interested in becoming Canadian citizens anymore. They just want to maintain their permanent residence. And so, I'm okay. The very next opportunity, they're gone. But it also tells me that fundamentally there is a problem. Let's talk about professionals. Let's talk about doctors. And I'm not asking that we lower our standard. We shouldn't. Okay? If we lower the standards, I wouldn't even be here myself. So that's not what I'm asking for. But how come people who are practicing in certain countries, who come in here, suddenly they find it difficult to pass the exam? So for me, I am questioning the professionals. I'm questioning these societies. What exactly are we testing? Now, these same people, and I know what I'm about to say, I know people in my circle, I didn't read this online. I like to be very practical. Who come here, they are unable to pass the same exams. They leave and they go to the UK or go to Australia. Like this, they start practicing. They spend a year, 2 years, whatever, a few years there. They come, the moment they flash the experience from there, we say, just start. We've been waiting. Where have you been all our lives?
Wow.
So RBC says there's this whole untapped opportunity. They've done the research. Costs Canada about $50 billion every year.
Wow, that's
$50.
Dr. Bankole is an immigrant from Africa. Recently, he gained widespread attention with his viral TEDx talk, where he shared his transformative journey of integrating into Canadian society after a successful career in Nigeria. Drawing from his own challenging experiences, Dr. turned adversity into a powerful mission for change. He has since become a dedicated advocate and a support system for first-generation Canadian immigrants through his platform, the Immigrant Life. Today, Dapo joins me to share more about his inspiring story and the work that he's been doing to empower others. Dapo, welcome to today's show.
Thank you for having me, Ayo.
Let me just jump straight into it. TEDx, how did that happen?
Great question. Number one, of course, you noticed that was TEDx RRU, so that was Royal Roads University. So I'm an alumni of Royal Roads University. I had my master's degree there. So sometime last year, probably December, or either November or December last year, so there was a call for speakers, and there was a message that went out. If you know anybody, great speaker, and of course, they gave all that criteria of the kind of people they're looking for. So for me, I was like, yeah, I'm the person you're looking for.
Interesting.
So yes, I just, instead of nominating somebody else, I nominated myself.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
So you just took the opportunity.
I took the opportunity.
Awesome.
Of course, I didn't.
That's a good one. Okay, so you spoke passionately about immigration and about integrating into the Canadian system. And one of the highlights of that for me personally was your own story. I would like you to share, that again, particularly about your immigration journey, into Canada and the experiences you had. I mean, it's first-hand experience, so it's your story. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. It's a long story. Let's see, we'll be here till tomorrow, but yeah. So my story really started shortly after, I left the my high school. Through I met somebody. I got to know about Canada, long story short. But I wasn't ready. I mean, high school, I was maybe 16. I got to know about Canada. So I just packed that dream. And I'm like, one day, I didn't know when. So I just moved on with life. But I kept on working towards it. And like just getting myself ready every now and then. When the internet became a thing, started checking online, reading, and just figuring things out. So anyway, eventually in 2007, I had my first application. It didn't go through. Like, Canada changes laws like no man's business. So I applied, and then it just didn't work out. So I just moved on with my life again. I just continued. And then in 2010, I applied again, and 2012, then the magic happened. So we moved. I mean, less than 6 weeks after we got our visa, like we were ready. We just moved. I always tell people that I actually planned coming here. So it wasn't like I heard people were coming and I wanted to come, or something was chasing me, or no, I actually planned.
Not a bandwagon effect.
It wasn't a bandwagon effect. I think that's a good way to put it. So I started, ensuring that the kind of education I had was very much aligned with what obtains here. Okay. In fact, there is a body that sets the standard for computer science. Okay. Call it the Canadian Information Processing Society, CIPS. So I made sure, of course, IT is not a licensed thing. It's not a controlled profession, but they set the standard. So they had 2 certifications as at then, probably even up till now. One that tells you that, you have enough experience and education equivalent to the Canadian standard or expectation. That, so there was one certification, like I had that back in Nigeria. This was 2000 and even before I applied for immigration, I think 2006 or something. Wow. So I was actually like preparing. So I had that. They came out with a senior one that also said, okay, you not only have the experience, you not only have the education, but you can even lead the team and you're at this level and all that. I applied for that. It was a thorough thing. And eventually I got that. I didn't even have my papers. I was still in Nigeria. Wow. So I did all this. And so I was ready again, just getting set. But getting here, I even told the people, I said, I'm coming, I'm landing on this day. So for me, like in my talk, I did say that I expected that Canada was going to roll out a red carpet. I mean, some people mistook that to mean that maybe I was expecting Canada to like give me things like handouts kind of thing. No, that's not it. It's a case of opportunity meets preparation, right? Because for me, I was prepared.
Rubber meets the road.
It just hit the ground running kind of a thing. But it didn't happen. So I would apply for this job, apply for that job. A lot of times I wouldn't hear anything. Then later I got wind of, oh, maybe it's because, I was always putting Nigeria on my resume kind of a thing. So I decided to scramble that. So I removed Nigeria. I still maintain the names and everything, but I will remove Nigeria from it. Just leave it blank. I didn't put Canada. I just left it there. And I started getting calls. So that told me something. So I started getting calls. People started talking to me. They would interview me and everything would go fine. They were like, okay, we'll get back to you, Then it's like, but excuse me, where they try to dig down, like, where did this happen and all that? Once I say, I always notice once I mention, back in Nigeria or Lagos or wherever it is, said, beautiful, we will definitely get back to you. Very soon. Crickets, that's what it is. Just go silent on me. So as it were, time was going. My wife was back in school. It was like, again, we knew what we were going to do. Once you get there, you're getting a job. You're going back to school. The kids are going to school. Like, so we had all that plan. So all that was rolling in. But things were not happening. Bills were piling up. What's this young man was going to do? So I decided to pick, some other jobs. So at least let's put food on the table. Let's be able to pay the bills. Let's not run down our savings, the little savings that we had. So, but again, that was very rough. I started with one job and then became 2, then became 3.
Wow.
Same day. I'll go for this one, work overnight on this one, come back in the morning, rest for a few hours, and do a second one. And he thought, so it was really rough. It was rough.
Interesting. I remember you mentioned a particular date, the 6th of September, 2012.
Yes.
And 14 years
Yeah.
after. And to think that is still happening 14 years after to people that are coming to Canada, it's a crisis, if you'll ask me. And I feel that much should have happened or changed between that period and now. But it seems a lot of people are still having the same challenge. Okay, and that brings me to the next question in terms of Canadian experience. Do you think it's a deliberate thing, or is just a systemic error, as it were? Talk more about that.
Interesting question. This it's interesting. I can smile now and say, yeah. Canadian experience, I don't even know. Like, I attempt every now and then to put some meaning to it. But oftentimes, as I try, I get confused as well. So in a way, I think I know what it means. Some other time, I feel like I don't even know what it means. And a lot of research, a lot of money has gone into this whole Canadian, like you just Google research on Canadian experience. There's a lot of papers on academic papers on this. Oh yeah, for sure. Like you, what surprises me is I was telling a story of literally 14 years ago, right? 12 years ago, actually. 12 years ago. But one thing that struck me with that TEDx talk is a lot of people reached out to me and even put comments on YouTube and from LinkedIn and all that. And they said, what really stood out to me, that this is exactly my story. In fact, a number of them said, you could take out your name and put our name on it, and this story still stands.
Amazing.
And yet, what I described was very specific to me. It was my family thing.
Yeah.
But then, in fact, there was a lady, somebody introduced her to me and said, hey, meet this person. And she saw me, she literally was like, you seen a ghost, literally, like she was shocked.
Yeah.
And she was just like, hey, can I give you a hug? And she did, and she held me for literally what felt like eternity.
Yeah.
Guess what? She was crying.
Wow.
As she held me, she just teared up and just crying, and she just held me, and I just stood still. I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
Wow.
Our story, she was like, for the first time, in fact, she apologized. She was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, it's okay. I get it. She was like, for the first time, sitting in the audience, the night of the event, she felt seen. She felt heard. That, now somebody understands what she's been going through, that she's been trying to communicate. Like, she couldn't find the words, or maybe she tries to say it, but people just don't get it. So seeing me on stage and sharing this was like, oh, wow, finally. And that even gave her a big relief that, oh, okay, it's not only me. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but, well, it's not. And what was her story really specific to her? She's a professional. I've forgotten what her background is right now. The husband is a professional. The husband is an engineer, okay? In fact, at that event, she was already, at that moment, if I remember correctly, she was working 2 jobs.
Wow.
The husband was working, I believe, if I'm not wrong, as a cleaner.
An
engineer. Cleaning. And they have kids. So they were struggling. And they couldn't understand. So it's like what they say. What you got is different from what you ordered.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to mention any brand name here, but you order stuff. And the advertisements that you see, the picture that is painted, based on that, you feel, I've done my research. This looks good for sure. So I'm going to order it. So you commit your life to it. And one of the things I was trying to say in that talk was, this was a dream. Like, we put so much into it, a lot of mental energy, a lot of resources, a lot of planning. Like, do you know what it means to uproot your life? Yes, it's my choice. You can blame me. But like every other person too, we all have dreams and we have a right to have a dream. True. I can choose any dream I want. My dream is valid. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. But my point is, sometimes or a lot of times people misunderstand the passion and the anger that comes from immigrants, like, and I'm being very specific, immigrant professionals, in the sense that these are people who were working, had all the experience they needed to have. They were deeply rooted, settled in where they were coming from. True. All they were looking for was, okay, advancement, more experience. Okay, I can take this and put it into another environment and become very useful, you know. So with all that planning and everything, and then they show up, and people say, sorry, you've not worked here locally. So what does Canadian experience actually mean? True. On one hand, you can go logical. Oh, it just means you've not worked locally. You don't have, you know, you've not worked in a Canadian environment. Okay, fair enough. But the question remains, the job that I'm doing, the experience that I had, for me, as an example, or say a developer, you code in .NET or your experience in Python or whatever it is, it's the same
language
in Slovakia, in the UK, in Lagos, even in my village. You have access to the internet, it's the same.
True.
And then you show up here. So what difference really does that make? I can understand, even for medical doctors and all that, but even that is another can of worms that I have my own personal, thoughts about that. But why do we get here and suddenly our experience is not good enough? And you know what is happening? I've taken a step back a lot of times and I've looked at this thing. You have a lot of immigrant professionals coming here, people with wonderful skill sets, experience and all that. And then they end up in, I think it's called blue-collar jobs.
Right.
You find a lot of them. And that's why I said in that speech, I'm like, these people are everywhere. You take Cuba, they're there. Sure. You take that, they're there. You see them, you turn people with all these big potentials into this. And yet, Canada keeps advertising. I'm not against immigration. Immigration brought me here. We keep advertising and say we need temporary foreign workers. So even temporary foreign workers, the blue-collar folks, they come in. They probably get what they want, but the immigrant professionals end up in the same place. Who is losing? Everybody.
Including Canada.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. Because it's potential. Let me tell you my story, Ayo.
Please. That's why we're here.
At the time that I was struggling, okay, and I still hustle. I'm a hustler, okay, from that point of view. But at the time that I was struggling, Ayo, I told you I was earning $13.23. I was working night shifts, that's why. So I had this night premium. That's what gave it those extra things on top. Okay? I was marked a low-income person. My family, based on what we were earning, were definitely low income. So based on that, we were not paying taxes. Okay? Even if, sure, they deduct it, but they refund it, right? So literally, it's net zero. We're not paying taxes. Let's put it that way. On top of that, the government was, still giving us low-income bus passes. There's something called that in Calgary, where because of your income level, there's you can, you still pay, low-income bus passes you pay, but it's reduced, okay? And then you're also given access to extended medical benefits, which a typical person who works somewhere would have the organization pay for that, right? So that you have access to this and that. The government gave us access to that because of our income level. From 13.23 cents an hour, the moment I got my first professional job, I was on over maybe $83,000 or something, whatever that was. Look at that big jump.
Wow.
But you know what's happening there? With that, Immediately,
Yeah.
because we had to report our income consistently, immediately that was cut off.
Yes.
Because now we're at a different level.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. Then the other thing is now we pay taxes. Whatever it is, whatever the support that even the government gave to us within the 9 months,
They kind of got it back.
not they kind of got it back in multiple folds, whatever it is, how much a bus passes. Got it back. And then we're contributing back to the society. So RBC says there's this whole untapped opportunity. They've done the research, costs Canada about $50 billion every year.
Wow, that's a lot.
50
That's a lot of
dollars,
money.
not naira, dollars.
Interesting.
So everybody loses if we don't get this thing right.
One of the things I also want to bring up there is that we have data backing all of these things up. And it still amazing that despite all of this, nothing has really changed, as it were, particularly from the policies, but on the other side, I know a lot of immigrants, particularly established ones like yourself, are now doing a lot of things to advocate, to speak, to that, and to also help people that are coming in settle properly, to navigate that pathway. I know we pride ourselves, Africans, to say we are resilient, we are tough, but coming here, it really shakes.
It does.
Kind of shakes
There's
that
a
resilience
big
almost
shaking,
out
man.
of us.
Yep.
But then at the end of the day, like we say locally, that what doesn't kill you makes you tough, eventually. But now I mean, it'll be fair to say you're fairly successful. The dream you are still chasing.
Yeah.
What changed, and at what point did that change?
I don't know what changed. So one of the interesting things that, of course, I also still tell people is, unless something is unusually wrong, once you get that foothold into the system at a professional level, whatever professional level, usually it only gets better from there. Because, okay, in my own case, and it's just what it is most of the time. Once all you need is that that chance, that opportunity, right? Just to prove yourself. In my own case, some people opened the doors for me and said, "Hey, talk to this guy." Okay, and I wasn't even interviewed.
Interesting.
Well, I was supposed to be interviewed, but unfortunately, the day of my interview, my hiring manager had an emergency, so he was not around. But interesting story. I was there with the person who took me there. I was at the lobby, so we're there. So while the person who took me there was having some other conversations, I was also there. So I was just asking questions. Oh, what do you guys do here? Like, I was just being me. I was just me. That was nothing. Just asking. And then later, a lady was asked to come talk to us just to explain and apologize and say this happened. I mean, life happens, no problem. Yeah. So she came, she introduced herself. I don't remember her name again. She introduced herself and said whatever. And then, I was just like, hey, which team is here? I was just being my jovial. And then we dispersed and everybody went back. And then later on, my hiring manager said, you know what, just come and resume.
Interesting.
Like that.
Just like that. It
was supposed to be a 3 months internship where you're not paid, but you do your professional level work. There was no guarantee of any. In fact, you had to sign that you understand that this is not an employment, that sort of thing. I said, sure, I'll take it, no problem. I was working overnight anyways, no problem. Can do that during the day, go down at night. So I didn't have a problem with that. I resumed day one. Okay? Day one, as part of my onboarding, I was handed, I think, 4 projects. Day one. Internship. I was given 4 projects.
Interesting.
Handed over to me. Day 4, then my hiring manager calls me into his office and says, can I see you for a moment? I said, sure. I thought, okay. I resumed on Monday. Thursday, I'm having
discussion,
that kind of conversation. And then he was like, what's your plan? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, what's your plan? What's after all this? I'm like, I need a job. Like, for me, that was it's not even a question. So he was like, okay, I'm ready to hire you now.
Interesting.
Day 4. Meanwhile, the contract that I signed with him was I will work 3 months and be gone. But day 4, because I was given a chance to prove myself, and in 4, the guy was like, I'm okay with you, man. Just come.
I'll hire you straight up.
And I even asked him later, I'm like, why did you not even interview me? He was like, interesting part. The lady that I was chatting with, that he just asked her if, number one, I was not an employee anyway. It was a term thing. He was not being paid. He wasn't paying me, so he just felt if he's not good, he'll be gone anyway. So why am I even wasting my time interviewing him? So, but he said, he asked her and said, this is a person I don't know. Never met her before. Like, what was your idea about this guy? What did you think about him since you met him? That lady, whatever she said something good about me to him. She doesn't know me from Adam. And that's how he felt. Okay, feel good. And you know what? That lady was not even on our team. Was on another team entirely. Was not part. So it wasn't like she was looking out for
something special.
But he just felt a neutral person. What do you think about the guy? And he said whatever he said. So for me, that gave me that first opportunity. And I got the job and I moved on and I moved. Like after that, I got headhunted, got a senior role. Like it just went on and on and on. But of course, yes, the system is, honestly, the system is biased, intentionally or not. I don't believe that the system is intentionally biased. I just think we have some wires crossed wrongly. Some things need fine-tuning. That's what I think it is. But once you get in as an immigrant, as a professional, for instance, and you're able to learn, to build that relationship with people, to be good at your job, to be a master at what you do, I think the rest usually takes care of itself. And I say that with some caution, of course, but in general, once you get into the system and you do the work and you're good with people, I don't see the rest is. Of course, we can talk about every other thing. You get a mentor to move up, get a sponsor. We can talk about all those. They are important, but in general, you get a chance, you just do stuff and
So currently, you are a convener of a conference called ThriveCon. And then also you run this platform, the Immigrant Life, which I believe is an advocacy platform for immigrants. Okay, in my own words, but I would like you to, tell us briefly more about that, what you guys do, and how that also impacts on immigrants generally.
Yeah, so the Immigrant Life, a lot of people actually think that we're a registered organization, we're not for profit or whatever. We're none of the above. And that's why I always describe us as a grassroots community group. It was just something, it was what I would call an happenstance. It was just, so I was always sharing my story, talking to people, going to this place, going to that place, just to talk, right? Just have conversations. And somehow my phone number, people, can I have your number? Can I have your number? So eventually people started giving out my numbers to people I don't even know. I'll get a call. I've gotten a call from Nunavut before. I've gotten a call from Montreal, like places where I've never been before, and so, but what I found myself doing was always saying the same thing literally, sharing the same story. Answering the same questions in different ways, but still fundamentally the same questions to different people. So after a while, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't there a more effective way of doing this thing than spending hours on calls and all that? So I started research, and eventually I discovered, there is something called podcasting.
Right.
I had no idea what it was, as professional as I was, I had no idea what a podcast was. 2018. No idea there was anything called a podcast. So anyway, I started my own podcast. So my idea was, and what intrigued me about that was, with podcasting, you can record what you say and make the same resource available to other people, right? So that when people ask me a question, I'm like, I just refer them. Because how I answered that before, I talked about, have you listened to it? So just like that. So it started growing. In fact, to a point where in over 100 and whatever countries, without an ad.
Interesting.
It's just me.
Organic. Yeah.
Just purely organic. No ad. In fact, I'll tell you a story. I like telling stories. I was in Vancouver once, and I was in a client's office, and there was this guy. I was on the phone in the office, just a cubicle, and there was this guy who walked over. He was Ukrainian. So he just walked over and said, after I was done on my call, he said, "Are you Bankole?" I said, "Yeah." Mm-hmm. I was like, "I listen to you. Have a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I listen to you anytime I'm going to work in the morning." In Ukraine.
Whoa.
It just happened to be in that office
at that time,
just for a short client visit from Ukraine.
Amazing.
So he identified the voice. I was like, I know that voice. So he walked over and was like, let me wait for this guy to finish his call. And yeah, it was me. So a lot of things were just that organic. And after a while, people started giving me feedback, because I thrive at immigrantlife.ca. That's the email. So people will email and ask questions. So people started saying, why don't we find a way to come together? And I'm like, who are we? I don't know. So anyway, that's how that one started. And then we're like, after a while, then I called a few friends around me. I'm like, hey, of course, this is happening. Yeah. Can we do this? And people said, sure, let's do it. And then we started. Year 1, year 2, year 3, just like that. And everything personally sponsored. We invite speakers, we do everything. We've had a mayor back then in Calgary, been there, all sorts. It's been successful. It's really been organic, and all we try to do, I just focused on information, because fundamentally I find that as an immigrant, really, and you can take that anywhere. Yeah. I feel strongly that the probability of your success depends on two things. Yeah. The information that's available to you and the people that you move with when you arrive. They can make or mar you easily. True. Easily. True. People give you wrong information and you mix with the wrong set of people, you are done. You're done. So what we focus on are those two things, essentially. Okay. Information sharing. And by information sharing, it's not just about a guide on 10 steps to being prosperous in Canada. No, it's not. It's not really just that. It's very practical things. Yeah. Everything we say is a perspective. It's not to be taken as this is how you must do. No, it's just perspective, because our journey is very similar, but it's never the same. So we feel that listeners need to listen and reflect on their own journey and say, out of all these things I said, maybe which 2 points make sense for me? You have to learn to make your own decision all the same. Yeah. So that's what we do. And of course, we now online is really primarily because, in fact, another statistics from our podcast, we've been listened to in every single province and territories in this country. Wow. Purely organic. Nunavut, Northwestern Territories, Montreal, some strange cities that I was like, is this actually Canada? And I check, it's actually Canada. And I see somebody downloaded the podcast from there. Oh. I've even at some point, I even had somebody from the government of Canada actually reach out to me as well, saying, they got a newsletter and in it, there was a reference to my podcast. I had no idea by who, for who, they wouldn't tell me. They were asking me questions about what I do. It's essentially a case of, yes, we're doing something good, but it also tells me that fundamentally there is a problem. Yeah. There is a problem, and the government keeps spending a lot of money, give X amount of money to this group, to that group, to this group to try and solve the problem. Yeah. The question I think we should be asking is it really working? And I know that a lot of all these organizations will usually send feedback and say, this is the report. We got this and everything like that. Sure. See, but we need to take a step back. If it's really working, why do we still have what we have? So, are we measuring the right things? Yes. What KPIs, what success metrics really are we using? Yeah. Similar to what I said, that we just can, and that's funny. We just say, 500,000 people are coming to Canada. We think if we hit that number, we're a success. No, you're not. No, we're making a big mistake right there. The wrong metric to measure. You're measuring the wrong things. If you measure the right things, you can know, then yes, it will be a catalyst for the economy and not a burden.
Exactly.
Today, people think that immigrants, whatever it is, immigrant professionals, whatever, they just think that we're a drain on the economy. They don't understand that the economy is also a drain, a big drain on us. It's a lot of, that's why at the Immigrant Life, we don't just focus on jobs. We have eight cardinal areas of life that we believe that you need to be successful in order to actually say you're thriving.
Yeah.
We talk about your mental health.
True that.
We talk about your relationship building. Talk about financials. When we talk financials, it's not just about making money. How do you make money? How do you keep it? How do you give it? How do you multiply it? How do you save it? Like all these different dimensions we talk about. Also, we don't know everything. We look for experts as well who come to talk to us. We talk about your physical health as well. We talk about your social life, you know. So all these things, we even talk about culture, even Canadian culture. How to integrate. So those are things we focus on generally all the time. I think we're losing a lot by focusing on the wrong metrics, because I honestly feel that immigration in its current form, it's not working. And it needs to change. I'm of the personal bias that we don't need as many immigrant professionals as we currently invite into this country today. I don't think we do need them, because there is a lot of build-up of these professionals within Canada who are not at their best. Then you know, their potential is not being maximized. A lot of them are even done trying. They've given up. They just, you know what? They've settled in that case, but they're not happy. And these are people at every opportunity that they have. Maybe they're just waiting for their kids to, you know, be done in school or whatever. They go. Many of them are not even interested in becoming Canadian citizens anymore. They will just want to maintain their permanent residency. And you say, you know what, I'm okay. The very next opportunity, they're gone. Or people just struggle and struggle and struggle and say, okay, you know what, in as much as I've put in so much, okay, I'm around. The moment they get their citizenship, guess what? The next flight, they're gone, wherever. You know, so we cost Canada a lot more. And that's part of my message. Like, are we really seeing things? It's not a case of them against us or us against them. Let's look at it holistically. We complain, we say we don't have nurses, we don't have enough this, we don't have that. And guess what? It's easy. You know, it's easy. The one that the government feels they can control, it's easy, money. So they then create this program and say, let's bring them in. Let's bring them in so that we can say, yeah, we spent X billions of dollars on this program and 2 million people came in. And the question is, after they came in, what happened to them? Who is focusing on that? And that's my question. Who is focusing on those set of people? It's so terrible. It's bad. People, we say we don't. Let's go. Sorry, but let's go. Let's talk about professionals. Let's talk about doctors. The same people that come in, we say, oh, for whatever reason, and I'm not asking. People have misinterpreted me sometimes. I'm not asking that we lower our standard. We shouldn't. Okay, if we lower the standards, I wouldn't even be here myself. So that's not what I'm asking for. But how come people who are practicing in certain countries, who come in here, suddenly they find it difficult to pass the exam? So for me, I am questioning the professionals. I'm questioning these societies, whatever it is called, the Doctors Association of, I don't know, I'm just using that as an example. What exactly are we testing? Now, these same people, and I know what I'm about to say, I know people in my circle, I didn't read this online. I like to be very practical. Who come here, they are unable to pass the same exams. They leave and they go to the UK or go to Australia. Like this, they start practicing. They spend a year, 2 years, whatever, a few years there. They come, the moment they flash the experience from there, we say, just start. We've been waiting. Where have you been all our lives? And then you just give them a pass. Because they flash an experience from where?
Australia or from UK.
Like, I'm not making these things up. These are people I know. They struggle here, they can't make it, and they run to Australia or they run to the UK. They continue their life there. What's that? So for me, these things, I don't have an answer, but it starts me to start to question what is going on. So I'm not saying lower the standard, but are we testing the right things? Are we assessing the right things? Should we be using the same assessment that you use for people here, for other people coming in? Can we do the real work and actually create the right set of assessment for our professionals, however you want to do it? You talk about Canadian experience. Why can't organizations just for once, I'm sorry to say for once, why can't they spend money, invest training dollars in taking these professionals? Is it you want them to be culturally sensitive? You want them to train them? Let them continue the technical skills that they brought. Whatever social skills or whatever it is that you think they lack, why don't you spend money, create that to take care of it, invest in your business? There are people who believe, this concept of management trainee, they'll take a lot of organizations do that. They go to all these schools, universities, and colleges and all that to go and recruit young people. Okay, say, they want people, they want them, and I'm not against. You should definitely do that. I have a kid. I want him to be part of that program, whatever it is you're doing. But I'm just saying that if you're happy to make all that effort, to put in all that effort, spend money, and then you pay these people living wage, and not minimum wage that you pay family people with decades of experience. Why can't you pay even the same that you will pay these young people who have no experience at all, and allow them to function within your organization under tutelage for a year, for 2 years, people who have no experience. Why can't you even accord a similar level of things to these other people who have experience? Guess what? If they do, they don't need to spend 2 years on your management training program. They'll spend 6 months or 9 months. You get your return on investment faster, bigger. So again, all I'm just saying, for me, I'm just asking questions. People think we're doing enough. Are we really doing enough? Are we doing the right things?
Amazing.
Sorry.
Amazing. I mean, you've spoken passionately, you've analyzed, you have answered most of my questions. You kind of preempted me, which is fine, and there's so much to unpack already. I wish you had more time, to say so much, because it seems there's still a lot. And I believe our viewers will definitely reach out for us, those that need more interaction and to like to talk more about this with you, going forward. But I think the last thing I just want to wrap up with, briefly, is for people that are watching you now, that are just landing in Canada, economic professionals, people that are looking for, better living experiences, and probably people that are currently going through some challenges right now, what message do you have for them? How would you encourage them?
Don't give up. Don't give up. When things get rough and tough, what keeps me is my why. Why did I embark on the journey in the first instance, right? Whatever you do in life, in general, it doesn't come easy. It really doesn't.
Right.
So you will always face a challenge.
True.
The question is, how will you respond to it? So even if you don't have it, a friend of mine, he didn't face any challenge like we did. He didn't. He just, in fact, he got called in Nigeria. I struggled. I worked. They had no idea what it was to, he had no idea. He heard stories, but he didn't go through that. He got the job. It wasn't long. He lost that job, maybe a year. Now, this is a person who's worked in the US, who worked in different places, so it's not like whatever. Anyway, he lost the job. It was then he now faced, his own. Then he did Uber, he did this, he did that, that, because he was already in, and you go in at that level, it was already there. So you had to struggle. But anyway, what I'm saying is, don't give up. You have to hold fast to the reason what got you up before.
Yeah.
That you cannot forget. And then, of course, the second thing is reach out. That's one area I think a lot of people miss it. You got to ask for help. Raise your hand. Shout. And everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Don't get put off that you reached out to me once or and I'm just using myself as an example. Once, twice, and this guy, I not ignoring you. Everybody has a life, and they have things. They have their own pressure. You just have no idea. So reach out to people, ask for help, be patient, but don't give, whatever it is, don't give up. Remember your why. Why did you come here? And just know that whatever challenge you are facing it's not enough to stop you, the dream that you had. So keep going. Is what I'll say.
Wow. Thank you so, so much for that. Um, I think we'll be wrapping up on that now. So I've had the pleasure of speaking with Bankole, the founder of the Immigrant Life, an initiative dedicated to supporting first-generation Canadian immigrants. To learn more about Dapo and the impactful work they are doing, be sure to visit their website, immigrantlife.ca. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more inspiring stories like this. I am Ayokunle Ogunboshi, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.